Hi, I'm Kat Delaney, and as promised, today I wanted to talk to you all about the energies of numbers. If you follow me at all on YouTube or on Instagram, I've been starting some daily tarot readings, and over the last few weeks, I've had a lot of downloads come in during sittings and times of meditation around the chakra system and different ways to work with the chakra system in meditation, and I wanted to share them with you all, but a lot of them are related to numerology and numbers. So I realized it might actually be useful to just lay a basic foundation of numbers and what the individual numbers mean energetically. Now, the energies of numbers show up in a lot of different esoteric systems, like tarot, for instance. There's 78 cards, there's 22 major arcana, which are all numbered, and then there are also 56 minor arcana, which are all in 4 different suits associated with the 4 elements. And then every one of those suits has a number 1 through 10, as well as a page, a knight, a king, and a queen. And so there's a number system that's interlaid within that esoteric system. And it's not just to actually put them in order. The numbers themselves have an energy and have a meaning to them. Likewise, when I started studying the chakra system, and if you've looked into the chakra system, there are also symbols associated with the 7 major chakras, which are petals or are flowers rather that go up the spine from the root or the base of the spine up to the crown or the top of the head. And each of those flowers that are associated with the individual chakras have a different number of petals that they are classically drawn with. So that became of interest to me, and that actually really helped develop my understanding of the chakra system and how to work with it and what it does for us as far as a tool and how we work with our energy and how we are in life. And so today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the basic energies of numbers. And hopefully if you want some more information on this, we can go in depth into a deeper class to investigate each individual number a little bit more. But first off, let's start with the first of all numbers. What number do you think that is? No, it's not the number 1. It's actually 0. So 0 is the first number we're going to talk about today because it is the space that holds all other energies and all other numbers. So 0 is the absolute. It's all and everything. It's that which is the container or the void which has the most potential because it doesn't have any form to it. And it's almost like this vacuum of space that calls energies into it, which is why it has the most ultimate potential and why 0 classically, like for instance, in the major arcana of the tarot, the Fool is new beginnings and ultimate potential and ultimate unexpected changes because it's also influenced by the planet of Uranus, which is unexpected changes and like shifts and new things. And so consider that 0 or the number of 0 to actually have the most potential of any other number. It's the absolute. So when we go to the next number in our numerology energies, we're looking at the number 1, okay? The number 1 is basically a point or a spot in space. It actually can give direction. You know, there's ultimate potential in this way too, as far as a directional energy. In the tarot system, of course, the elements are going to shape that energy a little bit and be more telling of what type of energy that is. But as far as the number 1, it gives us a point, right, in space. And if you look at this very simple drawing of the number 1, it also looks very similar or exactly similar to the symbol for the sun, which is also a spot or a point in space. It's the beginning, right? It is also a perspective. So when we go from the number 1 to the number 2, and also I should say the number 1 also is it's an active energy. And it's commonly, most commonly associated with fire because of that active energy that is tied to it. Now, the second number, or the third number, we should say, but actually the number that we know as 2 is represented as a line that has, you know, a starting and a stopping point. And in that line, there is reflection and there is exchange. In the number 2, we have the passive energy. So if you have, you know, a line that's going out, 2 would be like what stops the line, what stops the energy. So it's also can be because you have 2 points that are basically mirroring each other, you have a sharing and exchange of information. And interestingly enough, the 2 is in esoteric symbolism drawn as the moon because of its reflective energy. Now for the 3, we add in a neutral energy. So now we have active, passive, and neutral. This is also known as the Trinity, right? The sacred Trinity. We see this out in life as, you know, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. We see the maiden, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. We see like lots of representations of the number 3 out in the world as a sacred number because it has this Trinity, trine, 120-degree angle, supportive nature to it. And so in astrology and in tarot systems, the number 3 is considered typically like an ideal number because it has this third point between these 2 other points, you know, the neutral point, the meeting of the 2, so to speak. Now, when we go to the number 4, we get the addition of the earth symbol. So we have, you know, fire, which is considered active energy. We have water, which is considered passive energy. We have neutral, which would be considered air typically, but then we also have active, passive, and neutral of all the elements as well. But those are just like the mother energies, and that has to come into form. And so 4, because it's associated with the earth, is considered a stable number and a number of form. So when you like consider like a cube, I don't have a cube anywhere close to me right now as I'm looking around my space. But if you consider a cube, it doesn't move very easily. It's not like a circular sphere. It doesn't roll, right? It has a stable energy to it, and it has a form to it. And so the number 4 has that association as far as an energy. It's stabilizing. Now, when we add another point to that number 4, we get the that stability is now moving. So the number 5 is, you know, as far as a symbol, is usually drawn as a star, but that's because now there's movement involved in the picture. You have form, which you've added another point to, and so because of, you know, the magnetic nature of numbers, it draws to it and creates change and form. And so 5s in numerology, in tarot, in most systems that use the number 5 as a reference are speaking to change and time and the passage of time as far as how things that are stable change through time. So that's number 5. Now in number 6, we have 2 triangles. One is pointing upwards and one is pointing downwards. And so this would be, a lot of people would refer to the symbol as above, so below, a mirror of the inner self and connected to the divine. Now in numerology, the number 6 is a number of balance, and we can see that in this symbol, that the symbol itself is balanced. And it's speaking when you balance the movement and that change through history, right? When you add a point to number 5, you're actually getting a history. You're actually getting a picture of how things shape through time and how things are witnessed through history and how to actually like experience that. So it is that experience itself. And you know what's interesting that just came to me is that this opening here kind of does resemble a little bit of like an aperture in a camera, and how we see things through time and perspective and through history. So the number 7, oh, that's not the number 7. Oh, that's the one that I messed up then. I had to redo. So the number 7. The number 7, when we look at history and add another point to it, it gives us a perspective to history. And so 7s are associated with learning and knowing and gathering through experience, like gathering information, not just having the experience. Like, you know, if we look at when we were kids and we were reading history books, and you know, the number 6 would be the people who are actually in those books that the books are being written about, and the 7 would be like us reading those books, like us learning from history and us gathering knowledge through history, or gathering knowledge through our own personal history through experience itself. Because again, we have these like multiple different perspectives around the self. So if you consider a person that's looking out into these different angles around themselves, there's a learning just through observation and of that. Now, the number 8, right, we actually know also as the infinity symbol. And the infinity symbol is, you know, a symbol of understanding, right? Like when we look at even history, we can start to see that there are cycles to history, and it's not just a gathering of information and what people did, but there's also a bigger picture and a cycle beyond that. Like for instance, if you consider the 4, right? The 4, which is the 4 seasons, it's also, you know, the 4 elements which create the seasons through time. But when we consider 4 and we double that 4, it becomes an 8, right? And it's as if we're able to see that, you know, this season's going to return again, rather than just having the season itself. Like, oh, it's spring, it's you know, a little cooler, it's warmer than winter, I see that the snow is melting just through observation, right? But when we go through time and see that there's a cycle to time, and that every year around March and April, it gets to be warmer and things start sprouting out of the ground and birds start singing again, and we start to see little bird babies and little babies of other creatures because it's spring. And that energy of spring comes back in a cycle every year. So that would be the energy of 8, is that cyclical understanding of, you know, like this too shall pass and this too shall return, and understanding that from a numerical perspective. So the number 9, dun, 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 the number 9. So the number 9 is a number of completion. It's like, so it's completion as far as like completing tasks, completing, you know, projects, completing school, completing something that has a finite amount of time. And so the number 9 is an interesting number as far as like our understanding of it, but then also as drawn, because, you know, a lot of people, and I myself too, associate this symbol with something known as the Enneagram. And more recently, this symbol has become popularized as a means of understanding people's personality. I understand it a bit differently. For instance, so just to backtrack, like when I first started becoming interested in the tarot, I was around 13, 14 years old, maybe a little younger. And I got really annoyed with the meanings of the cards that were written in books because I felt like they always contradicted each other. And after a certain point, I got really frustrated with trying to learn the tarot system by books. And I just, tucked them all away in a drawer and just forgot about it and went about being, a 14-year-old kid. But I had collected at that point around 6 different decks of cards in different books. And I just wasn't getting it. I wasn't understanding it. So then you fast forward, and after I finished college, I started working at this coffee shop around 2002. And it was right after 9/11 happened. And I wanted to understand what was going on with the world because I felt like it was all falling apart. And I felt like the best way to understand that was to be around people and to interact with people. And so I started working at this coffee shop. And while I was there, a gentleman that came in who I, started serving coffee to regularly, I began to get acquainted with. And every year he would give Christmas cards, holiday cards to people with either $5 in it or a free tarot reading. And so he would always give me the free tarot reading. And eventually he asked me to be his student and if I was interested in being his student of the tarot and learning that system as a way of self-study. And I said, yes, of course. And that's when he invited me to draw tarot cards, which these are actually like my second round of cards. But while I was learning the system and being his apprentice, I learned the system of numerology, I learned the system of tarot and astrology and how the elements and the numbers all work together to create that system. And while I was studying with him, I also studied the Enneagram, but in the context of the fourth way. So the Enneagram also in the context of self-development and self-understanding. So to me, the symbol means something very, very different than a way to categorize people's personalities. And if that's something people would like a video about, I think that might be an interesting subject matter to explore. Just because just to briefly look at it, there's 9 points on this circle. And there's a very interesting sequence of how the lines are drawn on this circle. So if I just quickly number them, because usually you don't see them numbered, and then I'll stop going off on this little tangent. But if you see them numbered, you can see that there's definitely, a sequence. If you move around the circle on the outside, you can see there's a circle. And that's the idea. Like if we follow how things are done in sequence, you could consider that things are done 1 through 9, right? Like the passage of time would be on the outside of the circle, 1 through 9. But we don't always do things in that way. And a lot of times we don't actually get to complete things because we get caught up in this, in all the lines inside the circle. And so when you look at how those lines are connected and try to figure it out, you see that there's, 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. And then you have 3, 6, and 9 that are connected. So where else do we see the sequence of 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7? Well, we see that in the equation of pi. And so that's what I'm going to just, briefly touch on right now as far as the Enneagram and talking about, or just, I guess, really briefly speaking about how much more that symbol actually is than just a symbol to categorize personality. It's actually a symbol that's, telling us how to complete things, where we get caught up in completing things, where we get in our own way, and where the laws of hazard are, and what it actually means to complete something. And ultimately, to remember ourselves while we're in the process of doing things so we don't get lost with identification. So that is my brief snapshot on numbers. If you have any questions or interest in exploring the numbers more, or the chakra system, which is actually why I brought up this and did this whole video, is because I want to talk about the chakra system more, and I felt that it would be useful to have a basic foundation of numbers. So pretty soon I'll be creating a video on the chakra system too, to discuss that and just the different things I want to share with you all about that. I hope you found this video useful. If there are other subject matters that you'd like to explore, please let me know. If you are interested in getting a tarot reading or a combination of a tarot and astrology reading, or a channeled blend or personal session for any of my different offerings, please reach out and let me know. I hope you have a blessed day and that you are staying well. I'll see you soon. Take care.